After a day of fishing with her son Evan on the Coosa River, Susan Osborne told her best friend Holly she'd caught a keeper.
Just like, I think he's the one I really want to give a chance.
She was talking about Air Force veteran Jerry Osborne. From the day the two met, Holly says Susan was head over heels.
I remember her sending me pictures of texts, and she goes, "This is the guy I'm really, really liking right now."
Jerry was the first man Susan dated after her divorce from Evan's father. The following year, they were married.
I don't believe he ever had a family before, so to him, this was his family.
Susan's mom, Linda Anklim, lived in Texas and only met her son-in-law a few times, but she says he seemed to be a great fit for her daughter and grandson.
He was very protective of them. He wanted Susie to look nice. He didn't mind buying her dresses all the time.
He also provided them with a nice home. Susan even quit her job so she could be a full-time wife and mother. The last time Linda visited them in Alabama was Mother's Day.
She took me out for a manicure, pedicure, we did lunch.
It was a great visit, but just a few weeks later, something completely out of the ordinary happened.
I went to Michigan in June for my granddaughter's graduation, and I was sending her pictures all the time, and I wasn't hearing anything. She wasn't answering for several days.
Linda says her daughter had never gone more than a day or two without returning her text or phone calls.
And my last text was jokingly, "Susie, if you don't answer my text, I'm going to have to come to Alabama and look for you."
Linda considered calling the police, but didn't want to upset her daughter, who was always very private.
I said, "I just don't want the police to go to her door and she's going to say, 'This is ridiculous that you're checking up on me.'"
She even sent Susan a letter, but to her shock, it soon came back marked not deliverable.
It made me sick when that letter came back.
Mysteriously, around the same time, Susan also stopped responding to her best friend Holly, who had moved away to South Florida just before Memorial Day.
The phone was disconnected. I started thinking, okay, is she mad at me because I moved? Then when I couldn't get anyone on Evan's phone either, and then they were both disconnected, I knew something had to be wrong.
Neither knew how to reach Susan's husband, Jerry.
I had no number for Jerry. I knew he worked at the Air Force Base.
Linda admits she hardly knew Susan's new husband. Now, after 2 months, she finally called the sheriff for help. Right away, deputies spot something curious: Susan's car in the driveway.
When we pulled up to the residence, we started to realize that this was probably more in depth than we initially thought.
With a knock on the door, they learn Susan and Evan aren't there, only her husband, Jerry Osborne.
Mr. Osborne opens the door and he's thoroughly cleaning his residence.
Then Jerry drops a Dear John surprise.
What does he tell you about his wife's disappearance?
That on Memorial Day, she decided to leave him. A man had come and picked her up and her son up.
Jerry tells cops the next day Susan returned, taking furniture and other items from the house. He also claimed to have proof that Susan and Evan were still alive.
He was able to produce a medical bill for Evan that he had obtained oral surgery a few days after they had supposedly left. The bill was for a no-show, for missing an appointment.
Detectives are quickly realizing that Jerry's explanations just don't quite add up. The next day, they return to his house, armed with a search warrant, and find him busy cleaning, just like the day before.
When he found out that we actually were there to investigate the matter, it would appear that he did some follow-up cleanup.
According to Detective Ogden, there shouldn't have been much to clean. He says Jerry had pulled off a major home makeover in just 2 months.
The house appeared to be almost completely remodeled on the inside.
Susan's friend Holly was in the house just weeks before Susan vanished and says a remodel was definitely not needed.
She had repainted the house probably less than 6 months before this.
So it was unnecessary to rip up the hardwoods and put carpet down?
There was no reason.
Jerry had also bought several pieces of new furniture, telling cops he burned the old furniture in the backyard, including mattresses and bed frames. People living nearby on Waterview Lane were all too familiar with Jerry's fires.
So much just aroma and smell of plastics burning.
Nikki Miller says there were days during the summer when the sky was completely filled with smoke.
So much smoke they couldn't even go outside in their yard, and this is 4 and 5 houses down.
With all the remodeling and cleaning, detectives were worried any evidence of foul play might be lost forever. So they turned to a powerful investigative tool. Up next,
We contacted the State Bureau of Investigations to assist us on what's referred to as luminol.
will cops uncover what cleaning couldn't hide,
No paper cut we're talking about here.
No, not at all.
and the secret Susan learned about her husband before she vanished?
She said, I cannot let him know but all I know. She told me everything. If she was going to leave him or do anything, I would be the first to know.